Welcome to Honeybee. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell. Real stories of love, lies, and betrayal, where every truth stings. Let's begin. When my girlfriend Claire looked at me that evening and said, "Maybe we should go back to being friends," I didn't say anything right away. Her tone wasn't angry or emotional. It was soft, almost rehearsed, like she had been preparing that line for a while. The words hung in the air between us, heavy but polite, as if she was trying to make a breakup sound gentle. It had been a strange few weeks. I had noticed small changes, the kind of things you pick up on when you truly know someone. Claire had become distant, distracted, and more attached to her phone than usual. We used to talk for hours every night. But recently, her replies had turned shorter, her laughter felt forced, and her eyes carried a sadness she wouldn't explain. At first, I told myself it was stress from work. She had just been promoted, and her job demanded longer hours and more travel. But deep down, something didn't feel right. She was somewhere else mentally, somewhere I couldn't reach, no matter how hard I tried. One night, I noticed her smiling at her phone, a soft, nostalgic kind of smile. When I asked what was so funny, she quickly locked the screen and said, "Oh, it's nothing, just an old friend." That was the first time I felt my stomach tighten in unease. Old friend. Those two words carry more stories than they reveal. Over the next few days, that old friend started calling more often, once during dinner, once late at night, and once while we were sitting together on the couch watching a movie. Every time, she would glance at the caller ID, silence the phone, and say, "I'll call them back later," but she never said who it was. She didn't have to. Her expression told me enough. After the third call, curiosity and fear mixed inside me. When she went to shower that night, her phone lit up again on the nightstand. I shouldn't have looked, I know that, but something in my gut pushed me to check, not because I wanted to invade her privacy, but because I needed to protect my peace of mind. The name on the screen froze me. Ethan. Her ex. They had dated for almost 3 years before me, and she used to describe him as a mistake she learned from. She had told me that he cheated on her, that he broke her trust. I never doubted her words. I comforted her through her tears when memories came back to haunt her. I promised I would never treat her the way he did. And yet, there it was, his name, glowing brightly on her phone, like a ghost returned to test everything we had built. I placed the phone back where it was and said nothing. I wanted to believe she'd tell me eventually. I wanted to trust her enough to give her the space to do the right thing. A few days later, while we were having breakfast, she mentioned casually, "Ethan called me the other day. He's been going through some stuff. I just wanted to check if he's okay." I nodded slowly. That's fine. Everyone deserves some closure. But inside, I felt something heavy settle in my chest. I didn't want to control her. I just didn't want to lose her to the very person who once broke her heart. Weeks passed, and our conversations turned shallow. We talked about groceries, bills, and plans, but not about feelings. The warmth was fading, and all that remained were polite exchanges and awkward silences. One evening, while sitting on the balcony, she said it, "Maybe we should go back to being friends." The words didn't come out of nowhere. I could tell she'd been thinking about it. Maybe Ethan's reappearance made her question everything. Maybe she wanted the comfort of familiarity, the kind of bond you can't replicate easily. I looked at her and asked, "Is this because of him?" She hesitated, her fingers playing with the hem of her sweater. "No, it's not like that. I don't want to hurt you. I think we've grown apart." But her eyes betrayed her. They flickered in guilt, not sadness. I didn't argue. I just nodded, trying to hold my composure. "If that's what you want, Claire." She looked almost relieved that I didn't explode or beg. Maybe she had expected a fight, something that would make it easier for her to feel justified. But I wasn't going to give her that satisfaction. After she went to bed, I sat alone in the living room, staring at the wall. The memories of our time together played in my mind like an old movie. Our first trip, our late-night walks, the way she used to rest her head on my shoulder during storms. All of it suddenly felt fragile, temporary. In the following days, she started spending more time outside. meeting friends, attending work dinners, running errands. The excuses changed, but the pattern didn't. I began to notice little clues. A different perfume, a text notification that made her blush, a half smile she couldn't hide when she thought I wasn't looking. One Sunday morning, I decided to test my own theory. I told her I had to leave town for 2 days for work. She didn't seem sad or even curious. She just said, "Okay, be safe." That night, I drove back quietly after only a few hours. The apartment lights were on. Through the living room window, I could see her sitting on the couch, laughing, talking to someone on video call. My chest tightened as I saw his name flash on the screen. Ethan. She was talking to him like nothing had ever happened. Her face lit with the kind of joy I hadn't seen in months. I didn't barge in. I didn't yell or accuse her. I just stood there, watching from outside like a stranger, realizing that I had already been replaced long before she said the words. The next morning, I packed a few of my things quietly and went to stay with a friend. She called later, asking where I went. I told her calmly, "You want to be friends, remember? I'm just giving you that space." Her voice cracked slightly. "You're overreacting. I just needed time to think." I replied, "You've already made your choice, Claire. You just didn't have the courage to say it." There was silence on the other end. Then she whispered, "I didn't mean for it to happen this way." But things like this never just happen. They build slowly, message by message, call by call, memory by memory, until one day, love quietly steps aside for something familiar but toxic. For the next few weeks, I stayed away. I didn't call, didn't text. I let her figure out what she really wanted. Then, one evening, she showed up at my door. She looked tired, as if the world had drained all her energy. Her eyes were red and her voice shaky. "Ethan's gone again," she said quietly. "He said he didn't want to start over. I feel so stupid." I looked at her for a long moment, not with anger, but with a kind of sad clarity. "Claire," I said softly, "you didn't lose him again. You just lost yourself trying to find something that was already broken." She tried to smile through tears. "I miss what we had." I sighed, stepping aside to let her in. "What we had died the moment you answered his call." She sat down, crying silently, and for the first time, I didn't feel the urge to comfort her. I just watched her, realizing that sometimes love doesn't have a fight. It ends with quiet acceptance. That night, after she left, I went to our old photos. Each picture told a story, one filled with promises we couldn't keep. I didn't delete them, but I moved them into a folder titled Past, because that's what she had become, a part of my past, no matter how much it hurt to admit. But what I didn't know was that this wasn't the end of the story. She would reach out again. She would try to fix what she had broken. Not because she suddenly remembered her love for me, but because she realized the past she ran back to wasn't as comforting as she imagined. And when that day came, my response was to surprise her completely. 2 months passed after Claire walked out of my life. The first few weeks were heavy, like walking through fog. Every morning, I'd wake up expecting to see her making coffee, humming that little tune she always did when she was in a good mood. Instead, I was greeted by silence, the kind that pressed down on your chest and reminded you that something was missing. I didn't hate her. Oddly enough, I couldn't. I just felt empty, like I had given so much of myself to someone who had already emotionally left before she physically did. I buried myself in work, picked up new routines, and tried to find small pieces of peace where I could. One evening, while scrolling through my phone, I saw a message notification. It was from her. "Claire, hey, can we talk?" I stared at the message for a long time. My mind replayed everything. The call with Ethan, the distance, the words, "Maybe we should go back to being friends." Part of me wanted to delete the message and move on. Another part wanted closure, not for her, but for me. So I replied, "Sure, coffee tomorrow." She responded instantly, "Yes, thank you." The next day, I arrived early at the cafe we used to visit every weekend. It was a small place by the corner, where the barista still remembered our usual orders. Hers a caramel latte, mine black with a touch of sugar. When she walked in, I almost didn't recognize her. She looked thinner, her hair slightly messy, her eyes tired. The confident spark she once had seemed dimmed. "Hey," she said softly, sitting across from me. "Hi, Claire," I replied, keeping my tone calm. For a few seconds, neither of us spoke. The silence between us carried months of unsaid things. She finally broke it. "I know I don't deserve this chance to talk, but I needed to say I'm sorry." I nodded slowly, watching her fingers tremble as she played with her cup. "You don't owe me anything, Claire. We made our choices." Tears filled her eyes. "No, I owe you the truth. You were good to me. You loved me the right way. But when Ethan came back, I got caught in old memories. I thought maybe he'd changed. I thought I was missing something. Closure, maybe. I didn't realize how much I was destroying until it was too late." Her honesty hurt, but it also gave me a strange sense of peace. I didn't need her to justify it. I had already accepted the truth. I asked quietly, "Are you still in contact with him?" She shook her head. "No, he left again. Said he wasn't ready for anything serious. He used me to feed his ego, and when he got bored, he disappeared." I leaned back, letting out a deep breath. "And now you realize what you lost." She looked up at me, tears streaming down. "I do. I realized that with you, I was safe. I didn't have to question your loyalty. You made me feel loved every day, and I threw it all away because I confused comfort with excitement." Her words hit me harder than I expected. There was truth in them, not just about her, but about many relationships. Sometimes people chase chaos because they mistake it for passion, forgetting that peace is also love, just quieter, deeper, and harder to find. I looked at her for a long time before replying. "Claire, I cared about you deeply. I still do in some ways, but I can't go back. Not because I hate you, but because I finally understand that love isn't supposed to make you question your worth every day." She reached across the table, her hand trembling. "Please, just give me a chance to fix it." I didn't move my hand. "You can't fix what you chose to break. You asked to be my friend, remember? Maybe that's all we can ever be now." Her face fell, her eyes full of regret. I didn't mean it when I said that. I was confused. I thought being friends was safer than losing you completely. I nodded gently. "And yet you lost me anyway." We sat there for a while, just listening to the faint hum of the cafe around us. The barista called out an order. The world moved on. But for us, time seemed frozen in that small moment of truth. After finishing our coffee, we walked outside together. She stopped near her car and turned to me. "You really won't give us another chance?" I smiled sadly. "Claire, I gave us every chance before you ever walked away. I stayed when you grew distant. I tried when you stopped trying. I forgave things you never even confessed. But I can't rebuild something when I'm the only one holding the foundation." She lowered her gaze, silent. I added softly, "You'll find peace one day, Claire, but it won't be by going back. It'll be by learning to live with what you lost." She nodded slowly, whispering, "You always knew how to say the right thing." As she drove away, I felt an unexpected calm wash over me. There was no anger left, just acceptance. The kind that doesn't come from revenge or pride, but from finally understanding your own value. That night, I went home and sat on the balcony where she once told me she wanted to just be friends. The sky was clear, the stars bright. I thought about how far I'd come, from confusion to clarity, from heartbreak to peace. Weeks turned into months again. I started focusing on myself, reading more, working out, spending time with people who made me feel alive. Healing wasn't instant, but it was steady. One afternoon, while at a friend's gathering, I met someone new, Emily. She was warm, kind, and easy to talk to. There was no rush, no pressure, no hidden weight from the past. For the first time in a long while, I felt something genuine, not fireworks or chaos, but a steady flame that felt safe. We started meeting often, and over time, our bond grew naturally. There was laughter again, shared silence, mutual respect. Emily didn't remind me of Claire. She reminded me of who I used to be before heartbreak made me cautious. Then, one evening, while scrolling to my phone, I saw another message from Claire. "Claire, I saw you with someone new today. She seems nice. I'm happy for you, really. For a moment, I just stared at the message. I could sense the sadness behind her words, but also a hint of acceptance. I typed back, "Thank you. I hope you find your happiness too, Claire. You deserve peace. We both do." This time, she didn't reply. She didn't need to. Some stories don't have a fight or a reunion. They end quietly, with two people finally learning what they were meant to from each other. As I put my phone down, Emily walked in, smiling as she handed me a cup of coffee. "You okay?" she asked. I smiled back, genuinely this time. "Yeah, I am. For the first time in a long time, I really am." She sat beside me, and we watched the sunset in silence. The world outside moved forward, and so did I. Love doesn't always come in the form you expect. Sometimes, it teaches you lessons through pain before gifting you peace. And sometimes, losing someone you once thought you couldn't live without becomes a reason you finally learn how to live for yourself. That night, as the city lights flickered below, I realized something profound. Closure doesn't come from hearing, "I'm sorry." It comes from finally forgiving yourself for holding on too long. Claire once said, "Maybe we should go back to being friends." But what she didn't understand was that I didn't lose a lover that day. I lost a version of myself that accepted less than I deserved. And that, in the end, was the greatest freedom of all.